So the guy behind this did 1408. Now, story time. When I was younger, I went to a packed theater on opening night to see that film, and I saw two grown men throw hands in the movie theater. Sad to report, no punches were thrown during Slingshot. So Slingshot stars Casey Affleck, Lawrence Fishburne, and others, and it follows this group of astronauts on this highly important mission to this planet far off in the solar system called Titan. And the goal of their mission is to make it to Jupiter, get in its gravitational orbit, and use that as a slingshot to get to Titan. Hence the name of the film, Slingshot. We can all agree that's a stupid name though, right? Nobody wants to see a movie called Slingshot. The film picks up following John. He's waking up from a drug-induced hypersleep, and he keeps bobbing in and out of this hypersleep because they need to conserve resources. The trip to this planet's going to take years. But after he wakes up, nobody else has woken up yet. He sees something's wrong with the ship and objects hit it. Things start going wrong. Things are shaking. Nobody believes him though because they were asleep at the time. They run tests. The diagnostics come back fine. The power grid's fine. It's almost as if nothing happened, but the crewmates are kind of suspicious of what's going on. You find yourself in a weird psychological thriller space mystery of what's going on with the ship. Is something wrong with the crew? Are things as they seem? So that's when this movie's at its strongest, and for the first 45 minutes to an hour or so, I thought it was really engaging. But going into this film, I had tempered expectations because it stars Casey Affleck. Now, nothing against the guy personally, but I'm sure some of you guys can think of examples. This is one of those actors who's a good actor, but he never picks projects I like. So much so, in fact, I don't think he's ever starred in a film I would go as far as to say I like. So going into this, I had very grounded expectations, but sadly, I think this film fits him right with the rest of his catalog. Very well acted, very interesting premise, but it's just not for me. But what I did enjoy about this film, I just mentioned Casey Affleck, Lawrence Fishburne. They're both really good at acting in this, and they need to be. They need to carry this film. It's very small scale, it takes place in a ship. Need to be mysterious, need to act sick, need to act weird at times. They sell you on this mystery, psychological thriller in space of what's going on between the crew and the mission. If they weren't good, there really wouldn't even be a movie. So no problems with the acting. I think the acting is completely fine, if not very good. I was actually a pretty big fan overall with the way this film is structured and they tell their story, because it's one of these films, it's done through flashbacks, but it's also blended with reality. So you have him with his crew in the real time. Then you have flashbacks to this romance with a woman named Zoe. You don't really know how it relates, but it just keeps piecing it together by jumping back and forth, little bits of the past mixed with the present. I really like whenever a movie can do that and pull it off. I think this movie does that effective for the most part. And they do that basically by using the musical score and sound design. Highly effective. I really enjoyed it. I really feel like the music and sound design, the score of this film is basically a dollar store version of Interstellar. Kind of that mixed with the Twilight Zone, but regardless, I think it really works to sell you on this space exploration, epicness, a little bit of mystery. I think it all comes together to work really well. Honestly, probably my favorite part of this film. Even though I just said that the way this story is told and the mystery is a positive, it's also kind of the biggest negative because it bounces around so much from the present to the past. There's so much questions of what's real, what's not, hallucinations. It feels like it's 1408 in space, if you've ever seen that film, because he's doing the same thing in this film. It's so mysterious, it's so cerebral, it's so vague. You really don't know what to believe. It's kind of structured in a weird way where some of the flashbacks don't have significant information. It takes you out of the tension for pieces of information at the time you really don't think were warranted. So I liked it for the most part. When it doesn't work, it feels really disjointed. It's one of those films where I think the sum of the parts don't equal them separately, if that makes sense. There's a lot of positives to that mystery in the first hour, trying to figure out who's in the right, who's wrong, is it real, what's going on with the ship. When you're asking those questions, it's pretty engaging, but I'm pretty confident to say, no matter what you think of that first half, what your overall thought on this film is going to completely hinge on what you think the payoff does. And I'm someone kind of double dipped in the negatives here. I both guessed the ending and I also didn't want that to be the ending. So it's one of those things, if you've ever seen a film where you're kind of like, I really hope they don't do that, and they did it. That was my case with this film. I guessed it early on. Please don't be that. Please don't be that. And I was like, oh, it's that. This is also another one of those films that feels like it has about 3 or 4 endings, but it's not blended naturally. It just felt like they couldn't decide, so they just included them all. But you're watching this and going, oh, it's over now. No, it's not over. Oh, it's over now. Not over. And it just keeps doing that for the final 20 minutes or so. Probably would have worked better to be more mysterious, more ambiguous, kind of like Inception's ending. This film is kind of mysterious throughout, and then it just directly tells you everything at the end. I thought it was kind of silly. I did guess it, but I would have preferred it to be more open-ended. Again, just a preference, so it didn't fully work for me. And lastly, as I already mentioned, the pacing of this film, it being almost 2 hours, I think they could have easily shaved 20 minutes or so off when you get the end result. When they're telling the story, you don't really notice it, and you think it's all warranted, but when you look back, there's a lot of meaning meaningless stuff to this film you really never needed to see. And you start feeling it because that mystery starts dragging on, especially after you kind of get a guess for what you think's going on. So overall, guys, I definitely don't think this is one of the worst films ever. It's an interesting little space mystery for the first half. Well acted, good score. I just think your overall opinion is going to depend way too much on that ending, and it didn't really work for me. Honestly, just watch Interstellar for the 8th time. You and I both know it's better than this. Only see this if you got nothing else to do. So if any of you guys seen or heard of this one, I know the marketing's been pretty vague, but if you have, comment down below or let me know what your favorite space film is. As always, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? I do it all on this channel, but that's all I got in this video. Peace!